Well, this is a very quick video. One of my new subscribers asked how difficult it was to learn how to design things for laser cutting. So I've attempted in this video just to do a simple exercise. I'm having to make drop down boards to glue my platform numbers on, so these boards will hang from the beams. So I'm going to make them from the very thin white card that I use for a lot of my signage, and the boards will be cut out and then the numbers stuck on either side. So a little bit of rigidity when it comes to the number bit, but then the sort of the tails or the legs will be stuck onto the rafters. So the first thing to do was measure the platform numbers that I generated on Inkscape, and these came out as rectangles 8mm by 5.5mm in height. I opened up Lightburn, and the first thing I did was use the tools on the left hand side to select a square or rectangle creation box and drew a rectangle. Doesn't matter what size it is initially. Then, using all the tools at the top of the frame, I went to the height and width boxes and typed in the width and the height that I needed. Once you've amended the height and width and it is the size you require, you can then use Control and a mouse wheel or other keys to zoom in to your image to make it easier to work on. I then drew a second rectangle of indeterminate height but 1mm in width, and by right clicking provided a drop down menu which allowed me to duplicate this, and I duplicated that rectangle and moved its duplication to the right hand side of the first rectangle. Once I had done that, I wanted to make sure that all the rectangles, or the two taller rectangles, were on the outer edges of the first rectangle. So selected one leg and the main body and used the tools at the top to align to the right, and then did the same thing to align to the left. Ensuring the legs were dropped down within the main rectangle board, I selected all the items and then used the merge type tools on the left hand column, and it'll be the top one that's highlighted in black, and use that to blend or merge all three rectangles to create one solid image. I then selected the object again, and you'll see it highlights, and on the left hand column you see 9 little black squares. That is like a copying, but in columns and rows, and by clicking on that you get a breakout box, and in that it allows you to add a number of columns or a number of rows. It also allows you to increase or decrease the gap between each of your objects, but it provides you with perfect duplicates every time. I then adjusted the position on the Lightburn page, as this is the location that the items will be cut from once paper is, or the card is, put onto the laser cutter. Okay, you'll notice that I've drawn everything in black, and black is one of the colours down at the bottom in those little coloured squares you see, which you can use to select the parameters of the laser, these being millimeters per second travel speed, the laser intensity in power percentage, and also the number of passes that laser makes to cut a certain item. So I've just selected randomly. This is a pretty simplistic video, hopefully, but it gives anyone who's not used a laser cutter or is thinking of purchasing a laser cutter some ideas as to how things can be generated simply. Designs can get more complex. For example, the platform building, was initially I just chased, for want of a better word, the planking lines before I cut out the shape. So that is where the different colored boxes come into play, because you can select which bit you want the laser cutter to work on first and order your cutting or incising. I now realize that some of my videos don't have enough detail with how I do things, so I will try to do what I've just done in this video in my main videos, just to give folk an idea of some of the complexities or time spent.